I know a guy called Malcolm on the second floor in Leicester who claims that he owns that fire extinguisher right next door to the lift.
Welcome to your Next Six Figures podcast, here to smash through that barrier and give you the business your hard work deserves. Here's your host, coach, consultant and author, Marc Ford.
Welcome friends to this particular Next Six Figures podcast. And on this podcast, we're going to be talking about one of the most important steps in achieving either your first or your very next six figures in business. That's brands and branding, the first stepping stone of a real six-figure business. Now, when it comes to building a six-figure business of any kind, whether you've been doing this for years or you've only just started, there are lots of misconceptions about brands and branding and what actually any of that really means. Now, for some business owners, this is like a thinly veiled kind of arcane mystery, as though brand was exclusively the province of specially qualified executives in big, huge, overblown, mega money and complex businesses. For others, the words brand and branding are inseparable from other specific aspects of marketing, such as advertising or logos and slogans and the like. And others think of branding as a dark, mysterious and probably evil art practiced by the hidden persuaders of capitalism who wear dark cloaks in and around stone temples. But brand isn't really about any of those things. Brand isn't a subset of advertising. It's actually far more important than that. And brand isn't just your logo, and really shouldn't be complex or mysterious. See, brand is serious and important to your business, no matter what shape, size or colour it is. But it's also very simple in its essence. You see, brand is about meaning. In short, your brand is the sum total of all the meanings that all your possible audiences carry around about you in their heads, in their hearts, and in their wallets. In other words, your brand is everything that your customer and prospective customers think, feel, say, hear, read, watch, imagine, suspect, and even hope about your product, service, or organisation. So let's take the British store John Lewis. Ask any group of people in the southern half of the UK what John Lewis actually means. And I know this because I've asked lots of workshop audiences over many, many years. And you'll discover that most people share a fairly small number of meanings for John Lewis. Now, regardless of background, level of income, and whether they shop in John Lewis or not, these meanings are always mentioned within the first minute or two of starting this really simple exercise. And those are quality, service, value, partnership, middle class. There you are, 5 words that don't go together in a motorway service station. But this doesn't mean that these are the only words used. Quite frankly, I've actually taken out some of the rude ones. But no matter how often I repeat that exercise in workshops or masterminds, these 5 meanings are the most dominant ones. In fact, they are what I call headline meanings, under which almost every other idea about John Lewis can be put. Now, some people will say John Lewis staff are always very polite, which of course falls under service, which as British business owners we have to admit we're a bit shit at as a nation. But that's a subject for an entirely different podcast. Now, others will remember the store's long-standing slogan, never knowingly undersold, which reflects the brand meaning of value. And interestingly, most people are familiar with the fact that John Lewis is a partnership organisation. In other words, that each of its staff owns a little bit of the business. Not a lot, but I know a guy called Malcolm on the second floor in Leicester who claims that he owns that fire extinguisher right next door to the lift. Now, materially, this doesn't matter to us, the shopper, unless you try and actually use that bloody fire extinguisher. But philosophically, it does. Now, personally, I think it's because we feel somewhere deep inside our very confused business bodies that if this store is in partnership with its employees, then that indicates a value system that far smarter coaches than I talk about endlessly, which will in one way or another translate into a better relationship with us. We become a kind of partner of John Lewis too, just by shopping there, which is actually not the feeling that most of us get in any other store. And for the record, I am not in love with John Lewis, nor wish to go into a civil partnership with it, and I'm certainly not changing my surname. But not all the meanings that the group exercises throw up are positive. You see, middle class is descriptive, but neutral in of itself, and it's actually loaded with value judgments, mostly on the negative side. The negatives for John Lewis under the middle class headline includes descriptions like boring, stuffy, old-fashioned, a bit posh. Now, some real people, however, go on to say that it's not for me, and it's not really a family store, and it's expensive. From their point of view, they're probably right. But alongside these interpretations, John Lewis is also seen as an aspirational and appealing kind of store, even to those people who call it stuffy, boring, and posh. All this together means that John Lewis as a brand has a definable meaning which is almost all positive: quality, service, value, and even its low negative meanings, middle class, actually have a positive aspect. After all, even boring is a general reassurance that things will be just as you expect them to be every single time. Therefore, John Lewis is therefore much more than just a name or a logo or a number of big stores with a certain amount of products or stock. John Lewis actually means something to someone. Another example, I want you to draw the Nike logo, which curiously everyone seems to know is called the swoosh, or as my once 7-year-old said, the lopsided tick on a piece of paper. Now here's the thing. People will instantly respond with a whole new set of meanings to that very curiously simple symbol. Nike's headline meanings usually amount to the following, which is achievement, sport, design and technology, fashion, quality, expensive, high-profile sponsorship deals, hip-hop culture, child labour and sweatshops. And Nike has somewhat a more complex meaning than John Lewis for a couple of reasons. First, it's an international brand with a massive advertising and sponsorship spend. Secondly, it works across cultures to many different audiences in many different countries. And once again, you've already heard on the list one brand meaning, which is obviously not a desirable one for Nike. The interesting thing about child labour as a brand meaning is that it is historic rather than current. However, it's still a very powerful meaning, and one that Nike will have to live with for decades to come, regardless of their actual labour practices in the here and now or in the future. Nike is a fascinating case of brand meaning also. You might say that actually Nike is a brand and nothing else. The fact that Nike can be simultaneously so successful and yet so insubstantial and meaningless as an organisation is the most powerful evidence in retailing of the power of brand as a meaning. The fact that it can drop its high-profile stars as quickly as many of them drop their trousers without really affecting its business goes to show that it's so multifaceted as a brand, despite even marketing a fairly narrow range of goods and still not attempting to save the world, demonstrates that as a brand, it's not a static thing, but an ever-changing and dynamic one. And one last example for good measure, McDonald's. McDonald's makes you think, feel, and have opinions based on what is now just a sound, that earworm of a whistle. Now, none of us set out to learn it, but every single one of us can probably whistle it. It's now a brand on a very, very different level. It does everything that I've talked about with just a sound. And that is good branding, whether you like their food or not, loving it or hating it. So why does any of this matter? Why does brand meaning matter so very much to the likes of Nike, to John Lewis, to McDonald's, or any other brand you can name that has smashed six figures? And why should it matter to you? Well, the answer is, my friend, is that without branding, John Lewis would just be another department store on the verge of closing down. McDonald's, a burger joint that is desperate for a kid to go out with flyers and deliver them. And Nike would be, well, pretty much, not much really, probably in Shoe Zone or Matalan. But it's branding that gives these three businesses a personality, a presence, an identity in the world of business and consumerism. It is branding that enables us, the humble subject of their immense power, to understand them and allows them to communicate with us and sell to us constantly, whether we're aware of it or not. Branding is like a kind of shorthand, not the doctor on the prescription kind, but something comprehensible, readable and understandable. It's a way for a business owner, business or a product to introduce itself to people, its customers and potential customers. But strangely, branding is also a kind of tool for those who hate selling and would like to help their customers when making their buying decisions. When we choose a pair of trainers, where to eat with the 3 dozen kids that your sister's left you with on a Saturday morning, or decide which department store to shop in, we don't make the choices rationally, or at least not completely rationally. That would be impossible because the world is just way too complex. Even an apparently simple decision like which department store to visit when looking for a new fridge is fraught with difficulty, stress and mind-bending problems. Do we really have time to compare every single feature or benefit of every make and fridge and every single different store? But let alone we have to cross-reference that information with prices, guarantees, special offers, delivery charges, and so on. And what is your ideal fridge decision anyway? Have you seen it? Have you felt it? Have you experienced it? Have you lived it? How do we know when we have made the best rational choice? Well, actually, we don't. The fact is that we don't have the time, effort, or headspace, or even the information processing capacity to make any of those decisions rationally. So instead, we use a system of signs and meanings that have become known as branding, and we kind of go with it. If we've registered John Lewis in our internal system, as many life coaches like to talk about, as a brand that we know, that we like and that we trust to give us quality, service and value, then we don't have to make anywhere near as many difficult decisions because they've eliminated them for us already. Plus, of course, we also then remember the John Lewis promise of being never knowingly undersold, which kind of overcomes many of our anxieties about being expensive. But the funny thing about their slogan, when John Lewis says it, we believe it because they're a trusted brand. And let's be fair, you can sit there and it wouldn't actually be difficult to name at least a dozen retailers from whom you wouldn't trust that statement, right? But there's just one more crucial element to remember from the beginning about brand. It's not about size. Yes, folks, that's right. And gentlemen, this one is for you. Size really doesn't matter when you're on the road to growing your 6-figure business. It is perfectly possible to be a brand with just a few dozen loyal customers. You can be a local chip shop and be a great brand. You can be a local printer and be a great brand. You can be a small estate agent and be a great brand. Hell, you can even be a great business coach and be a great brand. It's not the absolute numbers of people who know about you and make you a brand, but the relative coherence of what they actually think, feel, and believe about you. And then it's your attitude to it as well. If you're just starting out with 1 or 2 customers and swan around thinking that you're a brand, pipe the hell down. Put the big boy pants on, you've got some growing up to do. But if you have 100 customers who share a set of meanings about your business, and you, my friend, have got a strong brand. If you've got 10,000 customers who don't have a shared set of meanings, then you have a weak or a non-existent brand. So what, you might say? I've got 10,000 customers, so who needs a brand? Well, good question, but actually the answer, if I could say it, is really simple. See, 10,000 people might buy from you this week or even this month, and well done you. But if you haven't engaged with them as a brand, that is, given them some meaning, then there's no particular reason for them to buy from you again this week or this month or this year. They might do, but they might also go somewhere else. However, if you've got 100 customers, a strong brand, strong set of meanings, then most of your 100 customers will come back again and again and again, because your branding helps them to make their buying decisions easier and faster. And not only will they come back, but they'll tell others about you too, saving you money on your marketing efforts because you spent the time doing the work on the foundations of your six-figure business. Now remember, great branding will give you stability, growth, loyalty, and longevity. Everything you need to grow in a six-figure business and beyond. One of the highlights of any Dragon's Den pitch are the comments on the product or services branding. And let's be fair, these guys aren't exactly multi-millionaire mugs, are they? So you have to consider the alternative. If you don't have a set of meanings that works for your customers both rationally and emotionally, then where does that leave you? You might say that it makes you a commodity, just a set of functions rather than a set of meanings. And yes, you can survive in a business as a commodity, and lots of businesses do. But guess what? It's really tough, because if you and your business are a commodity, then you'd better be cheaper, quicker, or more convenient than your competitors, because that's what you're going to be judged on. Take a look at the pound shop. No longer really the pound shop. It's more like the £1.50 shop. It's no longer doing what it says in the tin, and its customers' loyalty is beginning to wane. So as a brand that is set up to really mean something, cheapness, speed, and convenience are much less critical factors, because as a brand, you tap deeper into human, customer, and client psychology. As a brand, you go beyond a functional transaction with your customers, and they start to buy from you because you somehow fit into their world and what it means to them. It's a very, very powerful and enviable place to be. Big business understands it, but sometimes gets it terribly wrong because they forget who's really in charge, the customer. Now here is a disclaimer, however. These podcasts, my downloads, my books, videos, my coaching can't make your business into the next John Lewis, McDonald's or Nike. Sorry, so sorry, there, I've admitted it. Because as a business, they are unique. And so are you. See, every single business I've had the pleasure of working with over the last decade and that have smashed six figures and some actually, are as unique as the fingerprint on your finger that counts the cash as it goes into the bank. But what I will do is guide you through the processes and the states of mind of businesses, processes, strategies, ideas, brand and branding, so that you can develop a set of meanings that are your kind of positive and attract your people, your clients, your customers to come to you, that stay with you. And here is the game changer, what I like to call the ultimate brand benefit: recruit others to come to you too, so you can get those next six figures that your hard work deserves. Now, whether you're a flower shop, a dog groomer, a financial advisor, a designer, a decorator, a retailer, a charity, a voluntary organisation, a local council, a wedding planner, a chip shop owner, or even a car mechanic, if you follow my steps alongside the input of some of the world-class experts from around the globe, you can become a powerful and sustainable brand and get the business that your hard work truly deserves. And that's it for this podcast, but I want to leave you with something to do. Now, bearing in mind the concept of brand as a set of meanings, example like Nike, McDonald's and John Lewis, try to list the meanings of three of your favourite brands. Get 3 blank sheets of paper, and at the top write the brand name, and then write down the first 5 words that pop into your head when you think about what they mean to you or close people to you. It's probably going to take you about 10 minutes maximum. Now, here's your first big next six figures challenge. Repeat the exercise with you and your brand as it stands now. And for this to be valuable, you need to be very, very, very brutally honest. Don't write down a meaning that is just kind of wishful thinking on your part. Try to put yourself in the shoes of your customers. If you can't or won't do that, ask a friend that you trust and insist They are totally honest with you. Actually, better still, ask a customer. You see, this, friends, is just the start, because we'll revisit this process over the coming weeks. And trust me when I say this, you're going to be amazed how quickly you start growing your business by following these very first few easy steps. So talking about easy steps, go grab my free download of the 6 Figures Roadmap, giving you 3 really simple steps to build your business faster. The link is in the show notes, so please go and grab them, or visit my website, www.marcford.uk, and you can grab them there too. Join our community and get ideas, thoughts, strategies, and daily trainings from there too, with like-minded business owners just like you. And until next time, my friends, go out, sell stuff, be brilliant, and I'll see you all very soon.